Greetings, everyone, to session 0, part D. Yes, it's consistent. Yes, it's consistent, James.
You're doing it like that.
Yeah,
I thought we were going for like
I wasn't going to go numerical because you've already got 0, right? And you go 0 part 2.
Oh, I see.
You know, so I thought I'd change up to the letters.
So this is 0D.
0D. Yeah.
This is the odd session.
The odd session, yes. So this is our final, at least for the party as it stands now, our final brainstorming session for using the roleplay prompts that we've been putting out on the YouTube channel, which seem to be quite popular. So if you haven't watched one of these before, we thought this would be a great opportunity as we're starting a new campaign to kind of demonstrate what you can create using some of those roleplay questions. At this point, actually, some of the roleplay questions haven't yet been published via the YouTube video yet. So a bit of a sneak peek as well for where the questions are at for now. Because James, who is playing Maggie Pailmoss, is playing a human druid with a noble background, which I'm really looking forward to diving into with you today, James.
Lots of questions.
How much
can we reveal?
As little as you would like.
Okay.
So those things that you want to keep secret, by all means, keep them secret.
Okay, this will be interesting.
Which is going to be really interesting because I think there's probably a lot to, having read your backstory already, because you have already written yours. I think you're the only one out of the three of you that has pre-written your backstory before this brainstorming session, which will be
that might have been a silly thing to do, but we're here.
No, because I think these questions are still less about backstory and more about. Well, I mean, there are a few backstory ones, but you'll see.
We'll see. It's all part of the excitement.
But yeah, so having read that backstory, I imagine there's quite a fair bit that you do want to keep close to your chest.
Secrecy.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and viewer, dear viewer, there are many secrets.
Oh boy, there are a few.
There are quite a few. So we'll see if we can tease some of those out a little bit, maybe. Very excited. So we're going to do this as we have done. Again, if you've not watched one of the other ones yet, we're going to do this in what I'm calling life order. So we're going to do the 10 questions, the roleplay prompts as it relates to species, in this case human. Then we'll do background, in this case noble, and finally class, in this case druid. Before we get into that, actually, do you have before you, James, these...
I do.
Excellent. So we did the personality traits of your character based off your highest... well, not necessarily personality, because some might be physical, but some traits based off of your highest ability score, your lowest ability score, and your alignment. These are based off the roll tables that you can find in the 2024 Player's Handbook. Can you remind us what your highest stat was?
It is wisdom. Very wise.
Which would make sense as a druid.
Yes.
So what is the personality trait that you uncovered?
No, I believe when I rolled it, I got wary. Very wary.
Wary. Okay. And
definitely makes sense.
Yes. And your lowest ability score was
charisma.
Oh yes, because this is
well, there's a collection actually. It was a collection of a few.
Oh yeah. What was your lowest score again? Was it 7 or 8?
Oh gosh, yes, it was. I think it was the 7, but I put that into an intelligence and something knocked it up to an 8. So I currently have -1 intelligence and charisma.
Okay. All right. So which low stat did you roll for then?
I have a charisma. I thought it'd be interesting.
All right. And the trait that came out of that?
The one that came out was reserved.
So wary and reserved. Complementary, at the very least.
Very complimentary.
And how about your alignment? What was your alignment again?
Chaotic good.
Yes. And what traits came out of that?
I leave. Oh, goodness gracious me. I have rebellious as one of them for their chaotic. But I actually don't think I've rolled for the good.
Ooh. Well, shall we do that now?
Yes, I don't remember rolling.
Do you have a D4?
I do have a D4 indeed.
All right. Let me have a quick flick through the Player's Handbook. See if I can find the table.
Page 40.
Oh, thank you kindly.
You're very welcome. Look at that.
All right. Give us a roll then. See what you get.
3. Ooh, honest.
I mean, these are just suggestions.
Mm.
You don't have to stick with them, but that's what the dice are suggesting.
That's what the dice are suggesting, and I would be one to stick with fate.
That's right.
Honest could be
Yeah,
quite fun.
you're a DM, right, and not a dice fudger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right. Right.
a rebellious, honest person, like a Robin Hood.
If that's what helps you sleep at night, then
It does. I really like featuring Robin Hood every night.
All right. So, as I say, we'll go through these prompts. So these, again, to remind you, are the prompts that we put out on the YouTube channel just to help you bring your character to the fore in the roleplay aspect of the game, not just mechanically, based off of some of the lore and mechanics around the species, the background, and the class in this particular instance. So we will start with your human questions.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Obviously, you know what a human is, James. Of course you do, because you are one.
Wait, I don't even know myself at this point.
So these are more about framing the human in the context of the D&D multiverse.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, I say obviously, the player's handbook describes humans as particularly ambitious creatures when relative to the other species.
Of course.
So, my first question for Maggie Pailmoss would be, what drives her ambition?
Oh, well, I think I have one word for this.
Right.
I
I think I know what it might be.
think you might know what it might be, and I will say the one word, and I will leave it with just the one word, which is revenge.
That is exactly the word I thought you were going to say. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't think we'll say any more than that, I think. Unless you
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
was
share
going to say,
any more.
no, we'll spice just that one. We'll just put a revenge in there.
Revenge.
Revenge.
Question. That was a nice, swift question. If we can keep that pace up, we'll be
Yeah,
done in
that's
5
quick.
minutes.
Another one. Let's go.
All right. Question 2. Now, as a human, compared to some of the other species, you live a shorter life.
Yes.
So, in a world in which you will know of your short lifespan when compared to others, it wouldn't be a surprise. How does Maggie view her limited lifespan in comparison to the other species?
Oh, very, very good question. So I think there are 2 instances and 2 variations of this, and they have been sundered, some may say, by the what we'll call the incident, and we'll leave it at the incident.
The incident.
I think before the incident, had a very maybe quite sad, forlorn. There's probably a lot they wanted to do. I think post incident, however, their thoughts on this, on life and on death especially, have certainly shifted and have become a lot more tactless and carefree almost, driven by this ambitious revenge. I think the thoughts of death and a longer life have been thrown out the window and replaced with this ambition of theirs.
So post incident, actually less of a care.
Less of a care, yeah.
Mhm.
I think still a care. I think they still want to make sure that they've succeeded in what they're aiming to do.
Sure.
And maybe a few things after that, but they don't like to dabble on thinking too far ahead.
Sure. A kind of a follow-up question.
Oh,
Because I do have
question
those.
2A.
I do have those. 2A.
Oh my god.
Or is it 2B?
Or not 2B.
No, so, yeah, a follow-up question. Do you think that she has a sense of urgency or patience because of those things? And indeed, the shorter lifespan.
I would. My initial thought is urgency. I think there is an urgency to her, but I also don't see her as a particularly urgent person. I think the situation dictates urgency, but I think her as a person is a lot more patient and wise and calculating and all these kind of things.
Okay.
I know that's a very nonplussed political answer.
No,
Politicians
but
answer.
it's. I think it's good. I think it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Hopefully, this one will whet the appetite a little. One
Mm,
hopes.
yes.
So this question might be a little bit more tricky for you to answer. I think because you have all been rather hyper aware that this is a homebrew setting. That is my homebrew setting, of course. So I think you've all been careful not to step on any eggshells. No, step on any toes.
Toes. Eggshells
Toes.
could work as
Yeah,
well.
I completely conflated those two idioms. So yeah, try not to step on any toes, but feel free to answer freely here.
Okay. Oh, I'm so scared for this question.
There is, there is the caveat with all of these questions, which we've said in every video, but not yet in this one, that this is all subject to change.
Of course.
So feel free to answer as you feel fit.
Okay.
A much more simple one. What's your character's cultural background as a human?
Ooh. Define cultural background. Are we talking like...
Indeed. Again, this is kind of because these questions are kind of built for being representative of the whole D&D multiverse rather than just the specific setting. And there are many diverse cultures in the human species across the multiverse. So I guess if you really wanted to hone in on what the question is ultimately about, using one of the follow-up questions to, or the follow-up question to hone in on it, character's homeland and values, like describe those basically.
Okay, very nice. Yeah. Maggie Pailmoss is of noble birth. So she was raised very much by her father, her mother, and her siblings also, raised in this noble ideal. However, their noble life was probably a little bit different to what other noble lives were in terms of they grew up in an abandoned castle, abandoned ruins in the middle of a forest, which is where their family sort of set up their noble life, and that is where they aim to live and to grow up, I suppose. So their life would look a little bit different, but in terms of their values, it was definitely a lot about caring for nature, looking after one another, a sense of community, a sense of sharing, and everyone in this castle, this small tiny kingdom, is seen as equal to one another. Very much growing up in that community, and also a sense of survival. You know, the forest feeds us, we feed the forest, that kind of sense. I hope that answers the question. That was a bit...
Yeah, no, definitely.
Loosey-goosey.
A forest dwelling folk.
Yes,
The
yeah.
least.
The wilds. From the
Yes,
wilds.
the wilds. Some might say, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to name drop it because I've name dropped a region in every video.
Oh my god, okay.
So I am going to name drop it specifically.
Go.
The Elder Wilds.
The Elder Wilds.
The Elder
yes,
Wilds.
very specifically the Elder Wilds.
Very specifically. So yeah, that's your regional name drop, viewers, for this one, which I think counts for 3 now regional name drops, I think.
Oh, it's all going out.
Yeah, slowly. All right,
the secrets.
so next question. Now, obviously, there is quite a wide range of customs, species across the multiverse, but also within this homebrew setting as well. So how does your character, how does Maggie handle the diversity of customs and species? And how does your character feel about interacting with other species?
Oh, I get the sense she's pretty good at this. I imagine with a noble court, there might have been a couple of occasions where they'd be other various species interacted or invited into the court that she'd have to learn to interact with and learn their customs. I could imagine maybe dwarves came one time and she learned that they drink a lot and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I think she has a special love for gnomes because the ruined castle that they took over was originally lived in by gnomes. The ceilings were maybe a little lower than in other castles.
Sure.
But there was certainly a lot of old gnomish tomes around. So she learned a lot about the gnomish culture and how they lived just by living in a castle and the upbringing there. But generally, I think if she loves animals, so she's going to love people, but is very aware that people can be driven, very aware now, especially that people can be driven far more than animals can be. So is
Yes.
wary of people. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Got that one in.
Did you just drop that one in there?
Yeah, a little
Landed it.
wary drop in there.
Nice. Now, this one's going to be a particularly difficult one to answer, given what you know about the setting.
Okay.
So, kind of bear that in mind when you answer the question, because I think the question is still valid, but it might be a tricky one for you to answer. What role does your connection to the gods play in your life? Now, obviously, you know in the setting that the gods have gone. So, in this particular setting, because again, these are kind of meant to be setting agnostic questions, kind of follow-up questions to maybe give you food for thought. Does your character worship a deity, multiple deities, or no deities? And how does that influence their actions and beliefs? So maybe, perhaps, Maggie may have an opinion on the gods not being around, for example.
Oh, very good. Yeah, actually, good point. I don't think she necessarily worships a deity nor a god, but I do think she would converse with nature. So she'd talk to the trees, she'd sit and talk to the animals as if they could hear her, as if there was a connection there, and talks to the land. And, if a bucket tips over, we'll say, oh, you silly thing, what are you doing? And curse at the bucket and all that kind of silly, tiny things.
But crucially, not kick the bucket.
Yeah, crucially not kick the bucket. But I think she would talk to them as if everything had a personality, as if it was personified in a certain way. In terms of her opinion on the gods and the deities, I think she very much would fall under, especially now, the belief that goodness has been abandoned. That once goodness and light is taken away, there's just darkness and all the stuff that moves in the shadows. I think after the incident, she's probably convinced that there's no gods out there looking over her.
Yes. Yes.
This is what I'm thinking.
This is good. I like it.
This is good.
It's good. Okay. A slightly different question. Again, a tricky one to answer given the setting. However, given that you are a druid, perhaps not so much. What is Maggie's relationship with magic? Does she see it perhaps as a tool, a mystery, maybe a threat? How does she view it?
Ooh, that's a nice little question. I like the idea of it being a mystery, how you said it there. I think especially non-druidic magic is entirely a mystery. That's almost unheard of.
I mean, that is pretty much the conceit of the setting.
Well, exactly, yeah. I think the druidic magic is I think it's a thing that she's not fully understood yet, but she knows that she can do it or do things, but probably doesn't believe fully that it is of any magical cause, rather than just her asking something kindly enough that it does it itself. Sort of a sense of, if you've ever seen Howl's Castle or read the books,
I know.
this is a niche reference. Sophie in the books of Howl's Moving Castle, the way she gets her magic is just by asking something to do it, and it will just do it. But she asks it in such a stern way that it's kind of scared of her and the inanimate object. Yeah, it's quite a fun way of doing magic, and I like to imagine that's how Maggie almost imagines it.
Okay.
Interesting. Try and go with that.
So, humans, as it relates to, again, the wider species of the multiverse, are known to be quite resourceful. So, how does Maggie adapt to challenges?
Ooh. I think it very much depends on the challenge. I think prior to the incident, she would have relied on those around her a lot. I think she would have gone, I have people around me who know better than me. I have people who can help me with these challenges. I'll rely on them. I'll rely on their knowledge and their wisdom. I think post-incident, she's in a strange, conflicted place where she's having to learn to be far more independent and to tackle the challenges head on, But I like to think that when she does so, she always has her motives or her morals pretty steady throughout, which will be interesting to see how those are going to be challenged throughout the campaign, just as a player playing this character.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I like to imagine she does it. I also think she very much relies on trees and nature and water.
Right.
Trees for cover, water for survival, all that stuff. The simple stuff.
The simple stuff, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this one might challenge you to expand a little bit on a previous answer.
Okay.
Which was decidedly short.
Is it possibly the one word answer?
Possibly. But try to take it from a slightly different angle. If that one word answer is the thing that drives your ambition, this question is, what personal goals or dreams does she have?
Oh, okay. Personal goals are very similar. I think dreams. I think eventually she wants to. Here's a bit more spice to drop in. I think eventually she wants her sisters to be safe. I think set up a good life for them. I think she wants to see them succeed in what they want to do. I think she would love the chance to speak to her brother again, but knowing that that is not at all possible. And she would love the chance for the world to know of what happened in the incident, for those who could do something about it to know more about it. And I also just think ultimately just wants to restore. Oh, how do I say this without spoiling too much? I think wants people to know about the family names.
Okay.
Is the best way. And I think personal goals, I think settle down in a little farm somewhere with loads of animals would be a dream far flung away.
Though it's a good job she's got plenty of other goals as well, because that would be a very short campaign.
Yeah. I'm just going to go stay in this farm.
Yeah, just stay here. Nice.
Look good.
Some spice in there, certainly, though.
Certainly for the viewers.
Next question. This one, think of it as a slightly more maybe spiritual question.
Ooh.
So obviously, humans are the most widespread species in the D&D multiverse, arguably. So how does Maggie view her own role in the multiverse? Like, what is her place in the multiverse as far as her beliefs are concerned?
Ooh. I think that's a big question for Maggie, for little Maggie.
It's high macro level spiritual, what is the meaning of life kind of question.
Yeah. No, I'm sat here thinking about it. I think in terms of the multiverse in the world, I think her main goal, or where she thinks she sits, her sort of purpose for being here is this revenge, is this end goal. And I think also, again, it's absolutely shifted pre and post incident. I don't think she thinks too far ahead. I think she's very, very clouded by this one goal, this one thing. I don't think she ever saw herself as a leader, someone to take over the lordship and ladyship or whatever. Because she would have had her older brother that would have been first in line, and the sister younger than her, Yenna, who's obviously a lot more well loved, would have probably got there by popular vote anyway. Name drop. I think she very much saw, for quite a long time, was trying to find her place, and now she's been given this goal. I think, in a sense, she tries to set others up around her as well. I get the sense that she's very much I'm not important, I'll stay back here. This is what my life's always been, but you guys take the spotlight. You have the throne, you have all the gold, you have the crown on your head, whatever that would be for others, I think would be her thing, is to help others achieve their goals. Nice. Since she's cared for her brother so long. What that could be. For you to find out, dear viewers. Or for me to spill in like 5 questions time.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Final human-centric question.
Ooh.
What does she value most? Community, individuality, something else? Does she place, for example, more value on collective harmony, personal freedom, or some other ideal?
I think community. I think she's working. She's not, though her goal is driven by herself entirely. She is doing it for the betterment of her family, for her community, and also she will work with anyone around her. For the other players that I'm about to meet, hello. She will work with those around her and work as a community. And I think she's very aware of how people in power or people drive for a power that sort of taints who they are as a person. And I like to think that she works for the little guy, the underdogs of society.
Yeah.
So does her best with what her knowledge and stuff.
Yeah. I can definitely see that with what I know, for sure.
We're
dancing around. We're dancing around so much. It's hilarious.
We tail end it with what we know.
With what we know, the incident. Okay, cool. So that's her human identity covered. So obviously we know that from a background perspective, she grew up in a noble household. So we're going to go through some questions now to kind of try and frame that and bring that to the fore a little bit.
Amazing.
What is the name, which we know already, Pailmoss, and reputation of your noble family? And how do you feel about it?
Oh, obviously this might have to be a double up question actually here, Wayne, because certainly in reputation style, you might have to help me out in terms of how they're perceived in the wider community. But I imagine the general reputation is that
we can go with general. That's probably
yeah. We'll go with general. The general reputation is that they, especially her granddad and her granddad and grandmother, sort of the heads of the family, regarded as generally just pretty normal, kind lords, certainly stern in places. I think there's a certain I'm going to compare them to Charles Dance element about them.
Right. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Not exactly the is it Tywin Lannister?
Yes.
Not that kind of brutality, but that sort of, we're in our ways. We have our morals, we have our standing in the kingdom or in the realms. So this is who we are. I think her father and uncle have slightly different variations of that. I think her father, whom here's another name drop and a little backstory drop. Father married for love, so left the family behind, left the castle being ran by his younger brother, the castle that he was meant to inherit, to go and marry for love and find a new fief to take, a new castle to rule over. Hence why they're in the woods with the ruinous castle. And I think he's regarded as a, how do you say this? Like a bit of a hippie in the Lord ways.
Right.
A bit kind of quirky, a bit doing his own thing. But I like to imagine he's a kind Lord. And what was the other part of the question? I feel like I've answered.
It was, how do you feel? How does she feel about the reputation of the family?
I think she has an understanding of it. I think she liked the way that her father ran it. I think she understood the way that her grandfather ran it. I think there are certain motivations in other elements of the family that took her by surprise, to put it lightly. And I think she's learning to understand the drive for power, if that makes sense, and what people are willing to do for that.
Okay.
Which obviously we know.
We know.
But
with what we know.
Yeah, with what we know.
With what we know. I'm really intrigued as to what
Mm.
theories are going to sprout up out of this.
Oh yeah. I'm so true.
Okay. So, just wondering whether or not I want to ask this follow-up question. Does she feel... Yeah, I'm going to ask this question. Does she kind of feel burdened by expectations of her family name?
Ooh.
Or does she try and kind of escape that burden?
I think she felt less burdened because her other siblings were taking up that mantle and were certainly regarded in a light where they would be the ones to take the mantelpiece off the family. But I think post-incident, incredibly burdened by who that makes her now.
Sure.
If that makes any semblance of sense.
Yeah. Well, it does to me with what
Yeah.
I've done.
I'm so sorry, dude. It must be like torture. It's like drip feeding.
Which is not, of course, that's not, of course, the intention behind this. This video.
Yes.
It's just that in this instance, James already had a pretty solid view of the character before coming into this and the backstory. So it is not intentional, but I am finding it mildly entertaining. So, what kind of leadership style do you think she learnt at court, and how does she apply it in the world?
That's a really good question. I think compassion. I think understanding where people are coming from, understanding what drives people to do things, and then figuring out how, as a leader or as someone regarded higher up than those people, how you deal with that and the level you take to deal with that. What I would say. I think she understood that a lot from her father, the compassion.
I like that word, compassion.
It's a good word, isn't it?
Compassion. Word.
Nice to say.
Okay. What part of your, or rather her, noble education stuck with her, and what did she reject?
Well, she definitely rejected the social skills. Minus one in charisma. I think the main one, because she's Druid who has martial weapon training as well, is that she definitely took on the training that she was given, the weapons training, the combat training, and that kind of thing. Let me just have a quick look at the character sheet, see if there's anything else I can add to that answer. Yeah, definitely the weapon training and the medicinal elements that she would have learnt. She learned a lot about medicine and looking after people, which maybe not came from the nobility side, but came from looking after her brother. But that kind of sense, the survival.
Sure. Follow-up question, just to kind of dial in on the question a little bit. Is she the sort to, given her kind of noble education, because nobles are indeed normally quite educated, is she the sort to still quote philosophers, recite poetry, or does she more scoff at things like etiquette and formalities?
I think was never fully involved in the etiquette and formalities, maybe as her sibling, especially Yenna, would have been. But I imagine she lent more towards one of her other siblings, which was Poppy, who was certainly more rebellious. I think lent more towards that, and especially post-incident, has an understanding of their upbringing and what they learnt, and would certainly use it and also manipulate it in a way to help them gain what they're going for. But I don't think their everyday life they'd sit in a tavern and have a poised back or anything like that. I think they'd certainly avoid that kind of style. Be a bit more free and loose from that.
Okay. All right. How does she handle, this is kind of a two-parter. How does she handle those of a lower social standing? And how does she treat equals or rivals?
I think of a lower social standing, treats them the same. I imagined at this castle that, again, with everyone being treated equally and working as a community there, and with there not being that many people there, she would have probably known all the maids by name, or the farmers and the gardeners around by name and stuff.
Yeah.
So would have had a level of understanding with them. In terms of how she deals with rivals, I think she's never had to deal with it before and is coming to terms with it now. So I don't know how to answer that one. I think that's one that might come out in roleplay in terms of how
Sure,
she finds
I
out.
suppose in some ways that's part of the discovery of this particular character.
Yeah, yeah,
Is the handling of that. Yeah.
yeah, certainly.
Put a pin
Well,
in that one.
put a pin in that one. We'll come back to that in 3 years' time when the campaign will be.
That's an interesting thought experiment. I wonder how much the answers to these questions might change from beginning to end. Interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of it could change in roleplay.
It could.
Once they're on their feet.
With the character arc as well, like how the worldview might change over a campaign. Interesting thought experiment.
Very interesting.
Okay, so a more kind of classic noble-esque question, I suppose.
Brilliant.
What is her relationship with wealth, luxury, and material possessions?
Ooh, I think she doesn't like to admit it, but enjoys a shiny thing or two.
Okay.
I think she would indulge in maybe like a nice looking bit of clothing. Certainly pre-incident, but post-incident, things have become a lot more practical. In terms of wealth, oh, again, that might be one that changes throughout because it might be a case of seeing what the world is like outside of that small bubble and understanding the importance of wealth a bit more, especially for other people. But I think currently the wealth is very much, I will use this wealth to rebuild stuff.
Okay.
Stuff was a very loaded word there.
Stuff.
Stuff.
Is she kind of follow-up question here? Is she a hoarder of wealth in any capacity? Do you think?
I don't think so. I like to imagine she's more of a, I'll have a treasure chest that I'll bury somewhere.
Right.
And that'll be my backup.
Right. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
But apart from that, I'll spend what I have on the road and give to those who need it more than me and that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Which courtly skill or vice did Maggie master? For some examples, diplomacy, intrigue, gambling, seduction.
Ooh.
Something else entirely, maybe?
I think it was hard to say with a low charisma.
Sure. Sure.
I think she learned how to read a room very well. And she'd be able to pick up on what people were insinuating, what looks people were giving one another, what that meant. That's because she might have a better insight than charisma.
It's
I think that's
you're using the numbers to inform the character. So.
Exactly. I think her vice would be if she had to socially manipulate anything, she wouldn't be able to do it. She could tell others what she's seen, but she wouldn't then be able to go, I'm now going to actively go out and say so-and-so seduced so-and-so, and this is happening, and this is the intrigue, and I can change what I need to benefit myself. I think that's her vice, is that she is socially inept, but very perceptive.
You've kind of let her off the hook a little bit, so I'm going to double down on the question. I'm going to reword it slightly.
Okay, hit me.
What bad habit has she picked up from court? Let's put it that way. What's the thing that she does that she shouldn't really do, that is a bit gross, particularly if any commoners kind of saw her doing it? It would just be a bit like, ugh. I don't know if you've watched Succession, but Succession is... Oh, well, you must, because it is glorious.
I've heard much about it.
But that is basically a show about rich people and their vices in many respects. So has she got one? And if she has, what is it?
I think she certainly does. I think this isn't the one that I'm going to go for, but I'll mention it. Subject to change. Of course. I'll mention it because it came to my head, is that I think she, if given the chance, would rather go running around in mud outside, or like chasing people for a forest type thing. But I also think she, especially now, maybe a bit of a drinker.
Okay.
Possibly. And maybe we'll sidle a drink away. I also maybe caused a bit of mischief back in the courts with Poppy, her rebellious sister. Found the people who were the most annoying, like Ponzi, up themselves, and did their best to undermine them in some way.
Okay.
It's hard to think about. This is also James trying to think of what being in a court would be like.
Sure.
I'll have a think. I'll have a think and come back to that one.
You've seen Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, I've seen Game of Thrones.
That's all cool.
I'm trying to
right?
remember what happens in like Game of Thrones. What would be considered a vice?
Well, I mean, gambling, drinking, far too much sexual activity that
Yeah.
surprised that nobody's got syphilis.
Yeah.
All that. Not that. Yeah. Anyway, just all of the stuff, that basically all the Game of Thrones characters do: pleasure houses, gambling, drinking too much.
I have to think of like the Game of Thrones characters that she's most like, or a mix.
I mean, it's
thereof.
fine if she's a goody two shoes, but I just wanted to double down on the question. So
Yeah.
not let you
I
off
don't
the hook
think
too much.
she's not a full goody two shoes. I think she's just. I'm trying to find the one thing. It'll come.
I think the drinking certainly works. I think that kind of I think that works.
Nice.
It doesn't have to be any more extreme than that, but if you want to lean in, by all means do.
Yeah, I'll have a brainstorm and see if I can think of a really good one.
I kind of know the. Actually, I won't really ask the second part because that basically is your whole backstory. So I'll leave the last bit off, but the first part is, what role did your family expect you to play in the noble house? So, for example, were you destined for politics, marriage, war, priesthood, something like that?
Oh, this is a great question. I think my older brother would have been the one expected to take over the throne of sorts, but I think there was also possibly talk of how they could have given it to one of my younger sisters, Yenna, who is the golden child, and who would have represented us far better than my older brother. I think in terms of my role, again, this is a really good question. I'm so sorry for the long pauses.
It's fine. I can cut out long pauses. That's fine.
Sweet. I think. I don't know. I think it would have been a bit of a contested one. I think they would have certainly gone. Marriage would have been a certain way for it to go, and marriage into a better court. I also imagine that there was a much discussion of the fact that there was a lacking of a place that seemed most fit, possibly. It certainly wouldn't have taken over the full throne because there were two other great contenders for that. In terms of going into any kind of priesthood, that could have worked. I think, marriage may have been one. I think probably war as well, if she would have excelled well in weaponry. Yeah, I think there's probably maybe even discussion that she should be like a guardian of the realm or some kind of knight of sorts, possibly. That she would go and train in that sense. Or maybe she was very bookish as well, so maybe a bit of I'll have to think again. What do you think, Wayne, now that you know the backstory?
What do you mean with what I know?
Yeah, what you know with what I know.
This is a particularly challenging one, in fairness.
It's tricky, isn't it?
I think in many ways, I think with court politics, she is the middle child.
Yeah.
So in some ways, she is, because she's only got one older sibling, which is her brother.
Yes. Yeah.
So if her brother she is the spare, basically.
Yeah.
As far as
that's what I'm thinking.
lordship is concerned, she's the spare. So they're going to want to keep her involved and available. But then equally, they have a spare in her younger sister. So actually, she doesn't need to be that involved. But if something were to happen to her brother, she'd be the one to take over.
Yeah.
So in some respects, they're going to want to keep her close, I would think, to her brother should anything happen to him. And actually, it's going to be the youngest sibling, her younger sister, that's probably going to be the one that's going to be the one that's most like, whatever.
Yeah.
Because something terrible would have to happen to both Maggie and her brother before she got looking.
That's true. Yeah.
So she's probably more likely the one that's going to be married off to somebody, the younger sister, because she's got no hope in hell. Maggie's going to be somewhere in the middle, right? Where there's going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we'll maybe marry her off to somebody and kind of expand the family influence that way, build some alliances. But she is also, we mustn't forget, the eldest daughter
Yes.
too. So while
Yes.
she's not the first in line, she's the eldest daughter, which with that comes a little bit of weight to it as well, because she is going to have to be pretty au fait with court politics.
Very true.
I would say. I'm just spitballing myself.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think, yeah, there's also certainly there probably was a discussion in court of do we keep Maggie around as the spare part, or do we marry her off and then keep Yenna as the spare part, because then she would be the if Maggie's out of the family, then Yenna would be the next one to take.
No, not if you're married, because I
don't know how court politics works.
So in court politics, if Maggie was married to somebody else, then if something happened to Maggie's brother, then the Pailmoss estate moves to Maggie, therefore moves to her husband.
The husband, brother, yeah.
Yeah. So actually, Yenna wouldn't really get a look in. Particularly once Maggie is married off, because actually then the husband then becomes...
That's very true.
Unless, of course, there was something put in place or whatever. But it would be expected.
You're absolutely right.
There would at least be a fight for it, I would have thought. On some
there would have definitely been a spare partness to it all, sticking around. And I suppose also she had to deal with her brother. She got the second, because she spent a lot of time with her older brother, but we got the second-hand thoughts of her brother, of him probably going, I hate this is awful, what's going on, or I really enjoy this, and that would trickle down onto her as he complained about whatever he was learning and stuff,
because she gets all the benefits with none of the pressure, whereas he gets all the pressure.
Very true.
So they're probably going to want to put her somewhere. They're either going to be thinking marriage, or they're going to want to put her somewhere influential, I would have thought would be the expectation.
I think so. I think that's the right path that she would have been on. Yeah. I like it. This is what the questions are so good for, because now it's giving me a whole sort of like twist or a spin on what her life pre-event could have been. Yeah, I like it.
Good. They're doing their job. Good.
Oh, God.
I don't know how you're going to answer this one.
To be honest, Wayne, I don't know how I've answered any of these questions. I feel like they've all been a bit...
Who in your family do you still care about or despise?
Oh.
I really don't know how you're going to answer this one, so by all means, give a non-answer if you want to keep those cards close to your chest.
Despise. There is elements of both of those in very heavy drapes. I still very much care about my younger sisters. I think I've got to end that one there. I don't know if I can fully answer it.
I don't know if you can fully answer that one without giving too much away here, in fairness.
Yeah, but there are certain people in the family who I do despise, and hopefully that gives enough spice and salt and intrigue to the viewers.
Certainly.
I want to see if anyone's going to get it out there. I wonder if we've given enough away for people to guess where this is going.
I think it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
I think it's certainly possible. But until it's confirmed, it is a mystery.
Well, this is true.
Now, this is a slightly different take, but maybe something you haven't considered. Because, of course, being of noble birth, she's been in some privileged positions, and people have had to listen to her at times, despite her low charisma. She's gotten away with the low charisma because she's of noble birth. And maybe this is something particularly because she's got low charisma, actually might be a useful question for you. How does she react when her authority is questioned or ignored?
Oh, these are such good questions.
Don't mind me, just cracking open a drink.
Sure. I think in terms of authority, because they're both two very different sided things, I think questioned... Now, there's one side of me that wants to say it doesn't massively bother her, and that these things don't get under her skin as much, but because there is a part of me that wants to create this nice like inner conflict, I think that she maybe almost wishes that she was better at this, because I think there's an ideal version of herself that she can see, which is this person who's really good at this life and this nobility. But I think the natural side of her wants to just hang out with animals outside, rather than speak to people. So I think there's sort of, when she has to step into those shoes where she's trying to be that other person, it probably annoys her a lot more when she can't achieve these things, or her orders or whatever are being questioned or ignored entirely, because then it pushes that further away from her.
Sure.
But I think when she's more in this sort of realm of, I'm just hanging out with the animals, I don't think it bothers her too much. But when she tries to walk towards the other way, this is a really wanky way of saying what I'm thinking. When she tries to walk too far this way, and it probably does frustrate her that she can't reach that ideal version of herself.
Does she get irritable, perhaps, or anything like that? Do you think?
I think it's 5 stages of grief.
Sure.
Depressed eventually. No, I think irritable. I think snappy. I do think there's an element of grumpiness to her as well. I like to think that despite everything, if things don't go her way, she gets like a little bit barky, a little bit snappy. Yeah. She's got an ideal version of life almost. Certainly pre-event.
And these things are sometimes hard to shake, hey?
Yeah.
Okay. Final noble related question.
Oh, okay.
What symbol, heirloom, or tradition connects you to your noble past, or rather Maggie, and how does she protect it? A follow-up question to kind of give you food for thought as well. Does she perhaps carry a family signet ring, a secret name, a coat of arms, or a ceremonial weapon, or something like that?
Oh my god, these are such good. I've not even thought about this. I am now thinking of a second name to give her, to cover up who she actually is. Oh my god, I absolutely need to do that. Who am I kidding? This is silly that I've not even thought of this. I was going to go around saying this name and everyone's going to know what happened. Oh my god. Okay. Let me think of a secret code name at some point. I think in terms of traditions, I think there's I could actually think of like certain things, like a certain day of the year that something is celebrated, or a solstice is seen in or seen out, or that kind of thing. I think in terms of heirlooms, probably has like a little like one of those rings with like a little hidden compartment, and then like a little like a really tiny little drawing or something of a family, or a symbol that is of the Pailmoss clan or family, I suppose. Oh god, now I'm thinking of like code names. Or like fake second names that she can have.
Okay.
Yeah. Very
you
good. Very
happy
good.
with that, or did you want?
Yeah, very happy. I need to think of a code
To-do list.
second name.
Code name. Urgent.
Urgent. I'll let you know.
Okay. So we got a good sense of her as a human, and how her noble past has perhaps shaped her in one way or another. Now we're kind of going to zoom in on a little bit more of present day Maggie, a little bit more.
Fantastic.
Although some of obviously her history that you have kind of briefly touched on will probably come to the fore here as well. So, first Druid question. What is Maggie's connection to nature? Reverence, duty, or something else?
I think it leans more in I'm going to use the word again, compassion. I don't think she feels a duty towards it. I think she has an understanding that nature works a certain way and she can't change that. I think, however, she wants to help wherever she can. a bird trapped in a twig somewhere, she would go and help it. I think a deer with a broken ankle, she would do her best to heal it, to help it, to let it go. I think very similar to, I suppose, the princess. I don't know if you've seen Princess Mononoke, another Studio Ghibli reference.
I have not, I'm afraid. I'm not. I am
Okay.
not. My understanding of anime is Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh, and my younger sister used to watch Sailor Moon, so
Oh,
I'm pretty
brilliant.
familiar with Sailor Moon.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah.
but not
Studio
overly.
Ghibli is
So I couldn't name
wonderful.
any of the characters, but
Um,
that is my extent of
yeah,
anime.
nice.
Oh, and
Well,
Pokemon,
in Studio
obviously.
Ghibli, you have. Oh, of course, of course. You have Princess Mononoke, who is sort of this feral woodland woman who is raised by wolves, and her whole thing is stopping humans from destroying the forest. And I think there's an element of, not a full wild element, but there's an element of protecting of the nature, a
Sure.
protective, compassionate view of it, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We may swing back to that particular aspect in a bit. We kind of know this to a degree, but maybe the follow-up question can help you lean into it a little bit more. So part one is kind of what natural environment shaped her worldview, which we know the forest and kind of all of that.
Yes, the woodlands.
The woodlands and all that, yeah. But I think more specifically, how does that shape her values and approach to balance?
I think, yeah, balance is the key one there in terms of the natural order and the cycle of life. I suppose also an eye for an eye would come into play. I think she also understands the beauty of nature and the benefits that nature can bring to you. In terms of her medicine, I think a lot of her medicine is come from leaves and all these other things. So I think there's a level of understanding of that we can take from nature, but we have to give back to nature as well in keeping that balance. I'm trying to think of how the forest would benefit that. I think it's also just taught her generally how to survive out in a wooded area. And I think it's taught her maybe a bit about stealth and travel, certainly.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's also just in a broader scope taught her to be quite gentle.
Okay.
Taking time with things. There's no rush.
Mm.
I guess that goes back to the urgency.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's my answer. Current. It's very broad strokes. I'm really trying to think of how to give you a really arty, in-depth answer.
Broad strokes is fine. I find where there's broad strokes, it then gives you food for thought. For
yes,
later.
exactly. Yeah.
So that's fine. We are spitballing here. It's fine.
We are spitballing.
All right. So, what animals or natural forces does Maggie most identify with?
I think I like the fact that maybe like a fox. I feel she feels quite fox, but also a beaver. She wants to build a home. She wants to look after those around her. I think maybe less on like the bird side. I think maybe she's scared of heights. We should have that in there. But yeah, I definitely think a fox, a sense of going out there, providing, hunting, and also, well, foxes are kind of charismatic, aren't they? I think I'm really in depth on the animals. Yeah, a fox is where I'm going to go for now. I think is the one that she probably relates to the most. But she certainly sees a lot of different animals in her siblings. I think Yenna to her is like a doe, like a very dainty doe in a springtime field. Poppy was like a spider having a seizure. And Alwyn's like a little tiny dormouse. And then her older brother, maybe like a bear cub or something. I think that's what she'd do.
Okay. This might be an interesting one. I don't know how much you would have thought of this one. How does Maggie view civilization and its encroachment on nature?
Ooh. I think she certainly despises it. I think she's in a weird position because she grew up in nature in a civilized, ruinous castle. But I also think she saw that castle and I guess the benefits of it being overgrown as well. And obviously met a very important key figure in her druid life, deep in the depths of the castle, in the roots of the trees, some may say, that I think would have probably taught her a lot about the bond between civilization encroaching in nature. So I think she certainly doesn't mind that living in nature is a thing that you can do, but I think just the destruction of nature to create civilization is something she's very against. How's your head going?
Good, good. This one might be a little bit of a trickier one to answer, maybe, because it's not necessarily something that she will have experienced yet, but she may very well be aware of it as something to perhaps unlock or something of that nature, something to tap into later when she's skilled enough, which is, of course, wild shape.
Aha!
So what does the ability to transform mean to Maggie? Either physically, spiritually, or emotionally? Has it got any kind of weight to it, to her?
I don't think she's casual about it. I don't think it's regarded as a tool in a sense that it's I can use this to do this or that. But I also wouldn't say it's overly spiritual, as in like this is a method of prayer or anything for me.
Sure.
This is a really interesting one to answer. I know I've said that to literally every single question. And then proceeded to give the vaguest answer possible. I think I like to imagine that she does it and maybe she almost feels like maybe she's got like imposter syndrome when she turns into an animal. It's like, I shouldn't be an animal. I feel bad about this, but I can do this, and this is something that I can do and explore the world with. And then I think maybe that's how it started, but it's probably developed into something that's a bit more, this is the connection between me and the natural world, this is what it's gifting me. What can I do to gift it back for these abilities, possibly?
Okay. So a gift, rather than a tool, a gift.
Yes, I think a gift will go with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be used responsibly.
Yes, yeah. See, you worded everything so much better there than I have done in 6 or 7 waffling sentences.
Well, I mean, you're trying to think up the idea. I'm just synthesizing it for you. That's all.
There you go. You like the lovely little filter at the end.
Teamwork makes the dream work, Jamie.
Look at that. It's great.
That's what I tell my kids when they're tantruming.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
All right. You've touched on balance a few times, actually. So this next question, I can assure you, was pre-written. What does balance mean to Maggie, and what threatens it the most?
I think balance. There's 2 types of balance that she is certainly feeling. I think there's the balance of the event that's happened, and how that balances out. I think in regards to nature, I think balance is sort of a thing where she's saying, eventually my body will go back into this world, into this soil, and help grow plants and stuff. So I feel okay to pick plants and to take stuff to use to help people, to aid people, and all that kind of stuff, and to feed myself. I think if it's like the David Attenborough documentaries where if you see an animal getting into a fight, you're not allowed to intervene because it's a natural order.
Sure.
I think she has some real moral quandaries when that happens. And I imagine maybe this is her druidic vice, is that she goes for balance and understands that, but will always intervene to try and help an animal or whatever.
Sure.
I think she couldn't stop herself, especially if it's human attacking, she would intervene. But if it's an animal that's trapped in like a bear trap or like a wolf hunting a deer, she might intervene and give the deer a few more ways out,
Sure.
or something like that. Is what I imagine. Very sympathetic towards the underdogs of the animal kingdom, if you will.
Okay. So I'm just thinking to what you said. I think you may have maybe answered part A, but maybe not necessarily part B, which is what do you think threatens balance the most?
Oh yes, sorry, I forgot about that part. Fire.
Fire.
I think, to give a very in-depth answer, I think she's figured out that what the biggest threat is human ambition.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think the human desire to expand, to capitalize on situations, and I think that plays into both the natural world and the incident world.
Okay.
Nice, short, concise
Good. I like it.
answer as best possible.
So obviously you chose a primal order as a druid.
Yes.
Between magician and warden. Remind me, which one did you choose? I think you went magician, I want to say, but
Which one?
this is your primal order feature.
I do remember. Warden.
You went warden. Okay.
I did, yes.
So you walk the path of nature's protector then, rather explicitly. How do you think that particularly, and it might seem self-explanatory, but how do you think that that particular role as a druid may have shaped her identity?
I think it sort of links very much into what she's currently going through and where we're going to pick up with her in the campaign, in the sense of there's an element of protection and an element of, I guess it's that stubbornness as well of going, I'm the one who can solve this problem. Especially with this gift that she's regarded herself as, she goes, well, I'm obviously know the most about nature. This is who I am in the family. I'm the one who looks after the plants and the trees, guys. So I will be the protector. And I think now, after this incident that she's gone through, well, I know I'm the one who's going to step up and I'm going to do the thing about this. I think it links in a sense to that as well. Yeah, I'll go with that.
So kind of protector in all senses.
Yeah, I think so.
Many ways. And in some ways, perhaps one has informed the other.
Yeah, I like that. That's quite nice.
Yes. Okay. Good. 2 or 3 more questions.
Okay.
Obviously, she is also knowledgeable and aware of the secret Druidic language. So, what does that Druidic language represent to her? Is it, for example, a badge of belonging? The fact that she knows it? Is it like a prideful thing? Like, I know the secret Druidic language, therefore, I am a legitimate Druid, potentially. Could it be a burden of secrecy that she has? Like, the fact that she knows it is something that she takes that responsibility very seriously. Or is it perhaps a tool that can be used to preserve ancient wisdom, things like that, perhaps?
I think it links back to how she learnt it. And she's definitely learnt it from this friend in the depths of the castle. And I think because of that, and because of the secrets and keeping them a secret and learning off of them and making sure that no one found out about them, I think there is an air of secrecy to it. I think she's also probably not met too many other druids in her life, I imagine, if it's very much a lower magical world. Maybe the odd one or two, but I think it's very much a secret, hidden, coded language to her almost that she regards should be kept secret, as to not expose where she learnt it from, although she needn't worry about that anymore.
Right. Now you kind of answered this question already in another sense, but specifically to being a druid, what sort of rituals or traditions does she uphold as a druid? And why does she see them as important? So I have some examples, if that will give you some food for thought, maybe.
Yeah.
You mentioned already the marking of solstices.
Yeah.
Giving offerings to groves, perhaps. Performing
Yes.
rites of passage for dying animals. And perhaps kind of follow-up question, I suppose, of what keeps them, as in Maggie, spiritually grounded.
I hadn't even thought about rites of passages for animals. I think absolutely that. I think as well, if she were to take food from a place and cook it, or meat, or any kind of vegetable or picked mushrooms, and do like a little stew or anything like that, or have a meal that she's made, I think she would not say a prayer, but say a thanks, and thank the nature for gifting them this meal, and promising a return of some sorts in the future. I like to imagine her and Thoric would get on well.
Yes. Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Okay. Good. Anything else to add to that?
I can't think of anything on the spot. I'm sure there'll be stuff that comes up.
Sure.
I think, she'll absolutely have her superstitions. Like, if you walk through like a cobweb, you'd have to like spin 3 times and clap your hands and all that kind of stuff. And be very insistent to whoever she's traveling with that step on a twig and break it and you broke your mother's back kind of thing. All those silly superstitions. Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so final question.
Oh, we've made it.
We have.
Wow.
In record time, I must say.
Oh, God.
In record time.
How long did it take the others?
Oh, we went probably 2 hours with the others.
Oh.
But, I mean, you've done like nearly an hour and a half.
Okay, well, you
so
speed run, but
And, you've been keeping some cards closer to your chest. And also,
Yeah,
I think as well, in fairness, because you've already written your backstory, you're a little bit further along the character development process.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
And you've had more time to think about it because you're the last one to record. So your answers are maybe a little bit more top of mind, a little bit more developed. Exactly, yeah. So,
have the others revealed a lot about their backstory?
No.
Ooh. Okay, everyone's kept
They revealed a lot about their personality, I would say, but not necessarily a lot about their backstory.
Oh, okay.
Oh. I think that's probably a fair assessment.
Nice.
Although Anina has messaged me today, asking me questions about her backstory.
Oh, I'm so excited.
All right, which I do need to get back to her on that actually. So, final question: what personal code or instinct does Maggie follow when choosing allies or causes?
Oh.
And a follow-up question, which is even juicier. What would Maggie never do, even in service of nature?
Yes. Go. Okay, let's start with the first one before we get to that really tricky final one. I think what she looks for in... Could you repeat the question, please, just so I make sure I'm understanding it?
Yeah. So, what personal code or instinct does Maggie follow when choosing allies or causes?
Okay. I think honesty. I think if she has a very clear understanding of who the other person is and what drives them, even if it doesn't fully align with her thing, at least she knows where she stands with them. I think that's more of the incident talking on that side, but I think if we look at it from more of a druidic natural cause or natural side of things, I think she trusts someone. I think she has to be, if she's going to fully commit to a cause or a person, she has to be fully convinced they have an understanding of nature and don't disregard it, and understand maybe its powers, or even better, are driven to protect it, is what I would go for. Possibly. Feels like a very loose answer. Yeah, we'll say that, because I'm now trying to think of the second part.
Do you want to hone in? Do you want to hone in a little bit more, maybe?
I would love to, if I knew what I was honing in on.
It's very honest of you, James.
Yeah. I think she has, if she's got to fully commit to a person or a cause, they have to be someone who is willing to help others who are in need of help, and also not burn down a forest or anything like that. I think it's more a case of what puts her off. Like, she wouldn't be drawn to someone who's driven entirely by money, nor by power at all. Oh God, it's really hard. I'm really trying to think. I'll go with that for now. If I get more in depth, because we could be here for another 20 minutes of silence of me trying to figure it out.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the second part. What would she never do, even in service of nature?
To see, the first part's really easy to answer. The second part, where you throw in even in service of nature, really throws a spanner under it. I think kill an innocent person is definitely up there. But I'm trying to think of, again, I'm trying to hone in on what that means, or a more specific and less easy answer than kill an innocent person.
Never do that really horrific thing that nobody would ever do.
Yes. I think draw the blood or kill someone who didn't in some way deserve it is what I'm going to go for. So I think she's got to be convinced that the other person deserves death if she's got to kill them. And also, I guess that then throws all of her morals up in the air, because how does she decide who deserves death? If that makes sense. I don't know what someone's got to do to deserve death. And I'm going to have to figure that one out. Food for thought is more like a banquet for thought at this point.
That to-do list is getting longer and longer.
It's getting mad well.
You see? And you'd already sent the backstory through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you have an appendix to the backstory.
Yeah. Really, just thesaurus of questions to figure out. These things always take me ages to think of as well, because I always want to find a really nice answer. Which you never do. Maybe not even kill a person who doesn't deserve it. I'm going to have to think on this one. This is a really tricky one. I'm so sorry, viewers. I've given nothing away, and I've not necessarily.
I think we've skirted around a few things, and I think you may have given enough away that people would have enough to try and piece together a puzzle.
Yes, yeah.
But equally not enough away that anybody can be certain on their answer.
Yeah. There's certainly some really interesting, very hard questions to answer as well.
Well, don't forget, they're all designed as well to... The purpose of the questions is to give you something to think about when it comes to... In this... Because I said it on some of the actual videos on the YouTube channel. We as actors obviously know that the best way to bring a character to life is to know the answers to as many questions as possible. Once had obviously we went to the same drama school.
We did, yeah.
But I think this guy will have been long gone. In fact, did he even leave before? Anyway, long gone.
Yeah.
But I once had an acting tutor there lose his temper with us because we didn't know enough answers to enough questions. And he, in so doing, having that rant at us, gave me one of my favorite quotes, which I often will say, and not directly, I will use as an example rather than saying it directly to training actors. But the quote is, if you don't know what you had on your fucking toast this morning, you're fucked. And that is the impetus really behind some of these questions.
That's good.
Which is so that you can, when you are faced with a situation in a roleplay scene, you've at least got things to latch onto with how to handle a certain situation.
Yeah.
When you ask these questions, you think, okay, what do I know about how would, for example, my character behave with somebody when I'm talking to somebody in a position of authority? Well, for Maggie, obviously she's been there, done that. That's day-to-day normal stuff for her. She probably is more at home doing that than talking to peasant in the street.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so then in those situations, that then gives you something to think about in that moment, which you can then instinctively kick into, which of course you know, James.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the purpose of all these questions, to really just to give you an anchor.
I like it.
In all kind of areas of
But it's very nice. It's very fun.
species, background, and
Yeah.
class. So it doesn't matter too much that you may not have thought of everything here.
There's a lot of very...
But it hopefully highlights some of perhaps the, I don't want to say holes in what you've come up with, but kind of areas where it's like, okay, I haven't actually thought about
exactly
that side of things.
Yeah.
And all of these questions as well are inspired by what the player's handbook says about each thing.
Of course.
So kind of what the vision of the designers is. I've used those to kind of go, okay, well, based on that tiny paragraph of text that they've given us about what this thing represents in the world, what questions can I kind of pull out from that?
Okay, it's nice.
Yes, good stuff. So I hope you found that helpful yourself as well, James.
Yes. Very, very helpful. I hope you found that helpful, and audience. I hope you enjoyed it.
I found it enlightening. It's been interesting because I'm the only one that knows what all of the others have said.
Yeah. You're also the only one that has read the backstory for this. So you have the full overarching view of everything.
And I'm sure, as our audience are watching this, because this is probably, because it is the last one that has been recorded, it will probably be the last one that will be released. I'll probably just release them in chronological order. But it'll be interesting. I think that some audience members will maybe connecting some dots that I've been connecting, listening to everybody answering, going, okay, this is going to be interesting to see how that synergy works.
It's the most dysfunctional party ever.
I don't think it will be, actually.
I think
there is certainly, whilst there are differences,
yes,
there is certainly some common ground that has emerged already.
This is going to be very intriguing. I was so intrigued to see the introductions of the characters as well when they meet each other.
Do you know what? So am I, because now I have to panic for the next week whilst I prepare for session 1. To be like, how am I going to bring these three together? I mean that I am a fan of meeting in a tavern. I know a lot of people don't like that trope, but I think it's a great trope that I like to lean into.
It's a fun trope. It always works.
Right. It is a very fun trope.
Old reliable.
Yeah. So you never know. It might just be meeting in a tavern.
Yeah.
But it is where the tavern takes you that is the most important thing. Hey,
is what happens post tavern. Yes. The Beach Leviathan. I couldn't forget.
Right. Indeed. I love the Beach Leviathan. It has a special.
That was a good tavern. That was a good little tavern to meet in.
Yeah, I had to dig deep into my D&D lore for Neverwinter, and I was like, this place
will do.
Although, in fairness, it was partly inspired by a DM's Guild module.
Ooh.
In fact, heavily inspired by it.
In fact, it is from it.
I cannot remember what the module was. But yeah, a lot of that opening was taken from that. I think I may
we'll put it on the screen right now. There you go.
I hope I credited it in there. I think I did on the YouTube channel. I'm sure I did. I'm going to have a look whilst we're still
in a moral spiral.
I'm going to have a look whilst we are recording. I must have done.
Meanwhile,
because I'm not.
I will entertain you with song and dance.
Please do.
Yeah, God, I'm actually so excited.
I am really.
I'm also very excited because of the last campaign, Lost Mines of Phandelver. There were elements of it that I knew quite well.
Sure.
So it was a lot of it. Sometimes you go to a place like I recognise the name Cragwell Castle. Obviously, I wasn't sure what was in there, and a lot of it was changed anyway. And there's a lot of other bits that were added, but this time it's a completely blank slate. I have no idea what to expect.
Oh, phew! I did.
Have you got
Road to Phandalin by Brian van der Veen, available on DM's Guild. It is linked. Episode 1.
There you go. Get back. Give it a few more views.
It is very much, that opening scene is very much that module that was written. So I'm glad I did credit it because I would be lying if I said that it was based on very much that, because they did a great job with that kind of introduction of Gundren and stuff. So yes, so thankfully I did credit a few. Yeah, so no, I'm really excited as well, because I am excited because I feel like the chains have been broken for me as a DM. There's no expectation on where the story should go, what NPCs should be. I have
free control, free reign of everything.
But equally, that is the thing that is terrifying me the most, because it's like I have not done homebrew D&D since 3rd edition.
Wow.
I only ran published 4th edition, and I've only run published 5th edition.
Gosh. See,
all of my 3rd edition days was homebrew. I didn't even look at a single published literature. I don't know what was different about 3rd edition published adventures. I have no idea, because it was all homebrew when I did 3rd edition.
I'm very fascinated.
But it has been 20 years pretty much since I did any homebrew D&D.
Homebrew. I hadn't heard that name in a long time.
I would be lying if I didn't say. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't feeling the pressure, particularly for edition 1.
I'm super excited.
I'm very excited.
I'm very excited to meet these characters as well.
Just hoping I can deliver now.
Oh, you absolutely will, Wayne.
Well, the problem is, and I think I may have said this. I don't know if I said this on the last video or if I just said it off air with Anina. The thing is like, I feel like there's a lot of pressure because it's homebrew. I feel as though there was no point really prepping too much for session 1 until I'd done all of these.
Of course, yeah.
And now I've done them and I've got a week and I'm like, I have no idea. I'm going to be a lot of late nights coming up for me, I think.
Yeah, sit down and figure it out. But the thing is with inspiration, it comes at you. So, what was that quote? Someone's the quote about inspiration and laughter, and they're both the same. And they don't knock on the door and enter. They kick the door down and jump in, or something like that.
Right. Well, it needs to fucking hurry up. Because I've got plenty of like world ideas. I've got plenty of like mid to late campaign ideas.
It's getting the start.
I didn't think I'd struggle with it so much, but I'm like, where do I start? Like, where? That's been one of the hardest things. I'm going, well, I could start over here, or I could start over there. And what's the story over here? But do I want to save that for later? Yeah, I probably want to save that for later. So
it's the plot hook, isn't it? It's the one that's always the trickiest thing.
That is, and I didn't think it would be this tricky, because it's like, well, adventure, go,
you go.
You want adventures? Here is an adventure. Go. Yeah. But it's like, but that's not good enough. It needs to be more interesting. So
you get it, and I'm very excited.
Got a lot of writing to do.
Very, very excited.
Me too. Awesome. Well, thank you, James.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Because without you, there would be no show. There would certainly be no campaign too. That's for sure.
Yes, certainly.
So yes, very much appreciating all of your support, and keep an eye out for Bardic Quest Campaign 2 launch coming
very soon.
Very soon. Excellent. Good stuff. Right. Until then, enjoy as much D&D as you possibly can, and may the dice rolls be ever in your favor.
But don't enjoy it as much in Bardic Quest and always come back for more.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
May your D&D games never quite be as good as it. No.
May you always be striving for the
May you always be striving for. Oh, I wish we could. We could be that much.
It's like the critical role effect, isn't it? Everyone's always striving to do the Matt Mercer and the critical role.
So what you're saying is that my DM career should not be complete until the Wayne Ingram effect.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. The Wayne Ingram effect is the you drop something really big down into the world, and you sit back and you go like this.
Yes, that's definitely what I.
But I see your eyes light up as you watch what we're going to do, and they flick like they're doing now, just between all of us. As me and Anina and Isaac and Callum all look to each other like, the hell has just happened? That's the winning group vote.
Yeah, I feel very called out because that is absolutely what I do every time.
We should say if it happens, we've been waned.
Waned.
We're waned. Ingrammed.
Ingrammed. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Awesome.
Right.
We'll catch you on the next one, folks.
Yes.